I guess this is one video before we end the stream. This was recommended by a viewer. Of course, what is the future of MMOs? We gotta watch that. It's from Preach Bald Gaming.
The MMO genre.
And
I
that's it.
love it. Most of you love it as well. It's where I spent 20
Surely.
years of my life, and I don't play them as much anymore.
Damn, why are you yelling?
I really don't, and that bothers me. I raid every week over in Final Fantasy XIV. I drop into World of Warcraft for the new patch and play a bunch of that up until
My
the grind
condolences.
started, and then I drop into like Guild Wars where there's a big chunk of content waiting for me, and then I drift away. Number of reasons for that. One is time. My own personal fears about being engrossed in one game for the remainder of my life because I love video gaming in general. But the other is the elephant in the room.
Are you telling me I shouldn't be a slave to World of Warcraft? Bro, what are you talking about? That's crazy.
That's not.
I miss Final
talked about.
Fantasy
It's
XIV though. I do miss it.
mentioned off camera in various conversations, but an interview with Colin,
Hey,
the lead
look!
dev behind Guild Wars 3 this
Guys, it's not going to be a DEI millennial slop. It's fine. Don't worry. The fact that it looks exactly like Highguard, and everyone called it Highguard too, doesn't indicate of any pattern recognition whatsoever. It's fine.
week actually just outright said it, which the MMO genre is dying. A
Yeah,
slow,
Pritch is great. I used to love his
painful,
videos.
Poisonous death.
He just kind of went off his like a completely Blizzard chilling arc, and I don't like that. I think he should have called out Blizzard more. He used to do that a lot in the past. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why he stopped that. I really loved his FF14 arc too. It was really great. I used to watch his every video. I was subscribed to him for like many years.
Than it has been for the last 10 years. And the reason for that is stagnation.
Yes.
But thankfully for us,
This might be a great
at
video
least a
from
couple
Preach.
of the big three are trying to do something about it and finally
Yeah.
taking a risk.
The big three is literally World of Warcraft at the heavens, and the other are just like not sinking to the bottom. That is like the big three. It's literally big one, which is WoW, and all the rest are like here. And that's pretty much it. But it is what it is. Like, Warcraft is still doing insane numbers after all this time. Even if you do not include all the bots that used to hyperinflate their numbers, which, yeah, you should, right? You shouldn't count that. And even after that, like, the amount of players they have in China alone, that is more than any MMO can dream of. Like, literally millions of players. It's crazy.
But if you yearn for horizons unexplored,
Yikes. Look at
for
that.
fellowship and purpose,
My days.
cause worth
Absolute. What?
to
What
you,
is that?
we can.
Oh, the power of friendship. 3. Magic, yeah. Of course. Surely. I'm very
I've definitely
positive.
addressed this a couple of times. You might hear off-the-cuff comments during announcements is that our player base is getting older. Things along those lines. What they're actually saying is the people playing MMOs now are the people who were playing MMOs when they kind of were at their height of popularity. But they're not bringing in anywhere near enough fresh blood, new blood. The younguns are just not interested in those old, nerdy, farming and chopping trees type games.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't like this argument of, oh, the young people don't like it. It's only old people that play MMORPGs. That's not true. Yeah, they totally are playing. 100%. I mean, even back in the day, parents played World of Warcraft with their children. Asmongold literally played with his mother. So, you can do it today. I don't see like any, why this would change. I mean, why everyone constantly think that the young people are hooked on Fortnite slop. And like, I understand most of the like Gen Alpha are like Cocomelon babies and stuff. Maybe they wouldn't like that, but I'm pretty sure young people can still love World of Warcraft. And we shouldn't discriminate them immediately. We should try to appeal to them. And we're not doing this by writing a cringe Yasle Quinn Sylvanas arc that doesn't make any sense. We make it by returning to the roots of Warcraft. Dark fantasy, super gritty, obviously not like 18 plus, anything crazy, right? But what it used to be back in the day, deep lore, meaningful characters, tough decisions. These characters actually made me, at the time when I played World of Warcraft, contemplate real life choices. It made me who I am today, right? Which is, okay, maybe that wasn't a good example, I gotta admit, but regardless, it just made me a better person. I feel like we can go back to that easily. I don't understand why targeting young audience automatically mean some dude with a low tape fade cut and a broccoli hairdo. I don't think that makes sense.
As they once were. It is not where college students are spending their entire life as it was during the height of MMOs. And so that older player base has inspired lots of change because either they flat out have families and careers that don't allow them to play MMOs anymore and they drift away, or they yearn for the older days when I could spend my hours in Silithus just farming carapaces from the little bug people and blah blah blah, which is obviously resonated with a lot of people with the overwhelming popularity of Classic and all its many variants that World of Warcraft has launched over the past 18 months or so. They've done extremely well with that, and it's done very, very gangbusters for those players who did yearn for the older times when things were simpler and it was nice and content. And I have no issue with that whatsoever, and it in fact makes total sense for a generally aging player base. But that does mean that the poison is ticking through the veins. What was the last major innovation you guys can think of in MMOs? Now, I know some of you will only play
Zealotef getting a toe ring. Oh wait, that didn't happen yet. That's the next big innovation.
one game, so you're not aware of what's going on.
Sorry for I leaked.
But
that was dead on
for
mine
a
by
while,
me.
and it was probably the introduction of Mythic Plus during Legion in World of Warcraft, which is a very long time ago. I'm sorry. It was a very, very long
What are you talking about? Legion was like 3 years ago. That's crazy. Like, what is he talking about?
time ago. Since then, we haven't really seen any
I don't know what he's
major
talking about, guys.
innovation. Nothing's moved forward. And even Mythic Plus is simply a different version of what we've already had in ARPGs like Diablo and PoE for a very, very, very long time. It's not new, wasn't super creative, it was just a good system to bring in, which did force the other teams to respond. We had Criterion dungeons come from FF14 because people were yearning for that kind of content, and fractals came into Guild Wars, all those kinds of things, because it makes sense. Of course, as we
Fractals
all
are
know,
really fun.
The MMO companies all borrow from each other because risk. We're going to talk about a lot about risk today. Nobody likes taking a risk, and rightfully so. Risk
Wait, what?
has...
Yeah, in all reality, nobody wants to play with 13-year-old in their party. Whoever admits their age online. I played MMORPGs since I was like 10. I never said my true age. Like, who knows that? Of course, if you just go openly and say it, people would be inclined towards treating you differently. But to be honest, you just shouldn't say it. Yeah, you shouldn't admit it. That's reality. And 99% of the times, everything would be fine. It's okay.
a lot of problems.
I'm
especially
104
with MMOs.
base.
Let's talk about how expensive MMOs are to
You're
make.
the youngest WoW player.
Really, really expensive. Because unlike a single-player game or even big multiplayer games, you're not making one singular focus. That's not what you're doing. Think of it like running a restaurant. A lot of games in other genres are generally trying to create one really good meal. MMOs are trying to create the whole menu. We often refer to it as a buffet. People love raiding. People love collecting. People love glamour, transmog. People love pets. People love exploring. People love lore. All
True.
these different elements of the buffet, whatever yours might be, you probably have a favorite thing, and then you might dip your hands into the other things, and then there are certain aspects of that buffet that you just don't like, so you never touch.
Yes, and that's exactly why MMORPGs are the most difficult, arduous games to develop. He's absolutely right about that. It's just too much investment. People are expecting way too much. All of that for... you might just be able to guarantee success. No, even then, success is like not guaranteed, right? It's just so frightening to create an MMORPG. And that's why I'm not blaming a single company for not trying to make them. Or just making them poorly. Because honestly, you don't know what the audience wants today. But in my opinion, what most of the audience wants is classic World of Warcraft. I think we've seen insane numbers. And it just proves it. Like, classic WoW is still the king. Obviously, you need to elevate the formula. You can't just stick with it forever, sorry. You need to improve, you need to evolve. But companies are afraid to even do that. And I think that is the major problem I have with companies today. They're afraid to take the old text and improve upon them. They're just not willing to innovate, and if they do, just do the most random, out of left field, like, dumb shit. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
However, that is somebody else's favorite thing. And when you shake things up, when you take a risk and add a new menu item, or perhaps change the whole buffet menu entirely, people get very, very upset. It's surprising how delicate the MMO ecosystem can be, but I'm sure some of you have had, or in fact all of you, some experience with somebody who was drawing their line in the sand at something you might have found quite arbitrary. Because, going back to the buffet analogy again, if your worst thing is taken away, you don't care. Why would you? If you are a die-hard raider, you are a raid logger, in fact, you log in, you raid, you do some stuff outside of raiding, which is mandatory in order to keep up, you know, you farm your tomestones, or you go and do your Mythic Plus to fill a vault, whatever it might be. You do that stuff, but only in service of being a raider, and they take away something you don't care about, like pet battling. You don't care. However, if you have no interest in raiding and you want to do pet battling and they take that away or shake that system up or do whatever, as we've seen, some people get extremely and rightfully upset about those things.
True.
They cost so much to make because they're creating this entire menu that they don't want to take a risk. They want to guarantee they can get that money back. What we saw a couple of years ago was Ghostcrawler, former lead director of World of Warcraft, who moved over to Riot. He left
Ghostcrawler,
Riot,
yeah. I heard he made a new MMO. How that went for him?
He started their MMO project, which is seemingly still going. They recently hired Halinka, former PvP head and class designer of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, many people hate him
in the last couple of weeks.
I guess he made some really big oopsies.
When he left, there was a very long Twitter post about it. Now, while he was professional, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, what I took away from it was that he was kind of fed up with the lack of risk and innovation they were taking.
Yeah.
This is how I look at MMO development these days. And in fact, for the last 10 years, which is the stagnation.
The Ghost MMO went to the shitter.
I picture it like going to get an ice cream. But every flavor is vanilla. And what they have is a variety of toppings.
It's like he's talking about the Guild Wars 2 content creator quality.
They have sauces,
That's
sprinkles,
crazy.
whatever it might be. But underneath the sprinkles, which is what you prefer, they're still just vanilla ice cream. And what I mean by that is, when you think of an MMO, you probably think of very similar things. There's going to be some sort of leveling, which is going to be the campaign, whatever it might be, and then you're going to hit endgame. Then there's going to be gear collection. There's probably going to be some sort of talent tree, maybe not, maybe some sort of power gain, and then you can have a whole bunch of endgame daily content or whatever it might be in order to acquire some sort of currency or whatever.
Oh, Destiny, rest in peace.
Dressed in different
Man,
packages.
so many dead MMOs.
And then you have the sprinkles and the toppings, right? Which are going to be the theme, the IP, the look, the style, the art style, the UI, whatever it might be. Those are the different things on top, but underneath is the same thing. We're going to use a lot of food analogies today because I think it's easier. And that's where the genre has stagnated, because every time I look at a brand new MMO,
is that Ion 2
is about to come out. I'm like, yeah, I kind of get.
I'm assuming so because she's actually looking good,
and that's going to be there.
If this was a Western MMO, she would be fat.
But I kind of know what I'm going to get into, and for me now, after loving this genre for as long as I have, that's the stuff that puts me off. I don't really want to taste vanilla ice cream anymore. I want something new. I want something interesting. But as I said, thankfully, some risks are being taken. I want to stress again, I don't blame the big companies that are trying to put something out there for not wanting to take that much risk to guarantee a return on that money. Because once that money is spent, you need to earn it back. Otherwise, you've wasted your time, which is a big problem. And we can see and have seen, certainly over the last couple of years, that lack of innovation, that lack of creativity, and that lack of funding can lead to many problems. New World has fallen. We had in the last couple of weeks that Destiny 2 is waving the white flag. We saw Ghostcrawler's new project, Magic Pixel Castle, I believe they were called, where I luckily got to take part in the closed, super early, pre-even assets gameplay loop to give feedback on. Has also bit the bullet, despite the fact that I spoke with Ghostcrawler at the time about whether they were funded to get this out to market, and they were pretty comfortable at that point. A few months later, it was not meant to be.
Yeah, it's like MMO people lie. That's crazy. Never happened to us before.
They're super expensive and risk.
Of course. And not only that, if you realize you made a mistake halfway through, it's way better to double down than pivot and go back. Because if you pivot, you're just gonna lose more money. And eventually, you might just screw up on that angle too. And it's going to crumble down in front of you. It sucks, man. Making MMOs is truly, I don't wish that on my worst enemies.
It's scary. So, Colin addressed this. I can't tell you what a breath of fresh air this was.
Yeah.
To hear one of these major devs to talk about what is a common awareness in the industry out on stage.
What awareness? He's not even aware that his community is one of the worst communities I've ever seen in my life. Online, obviously, like, some people inside of the community are great. There's a huge silent majority in Guild Wars 2 that is amazing. But most of the people and the Reddit is infested with DEI Rainbow Mafia propaganda, and they capitulate to their demands. That's why the trailer looked the way that it did. That's why Guild Wars 2 story went the way that it had, and they're never going to change that. Why? Because they want to appear like they are the good people. They want a virtue signal. They want to do all of that stuff that makes them feel good about themselves because they lived their entire life behind a sheltered community and they never experienced any adversity whatsoever. So now they feel bad about not experiencing any hardships. So they want to convince us that, oh, look at that. Oh, that must be difficult. You've lost a friend. Oh, like, bro, what is that story writing? Like, please, can you actually make good characters instead of neurotic, cartoonish ones? Like, can we get an actual good character inside of Guild Wars 2? But no.
Age, as Colin pointed out, is we're all feeling it. And now they've announced Guild Wars 3.
We've consistently heard this from all of you, too, that you feel like this genre is ready for something new, that it is stagnated, that we've all been playing the same games for the most part for over a decade. And I think this is when ArenaNet's at its best, when we challenge ourselves and say, let's go solve for the problems and innovate. And it's risky. It's a challenging thing to do. We could trip and fall flat on our face by trying to invent new ideas and then wrap our game around those. But
so you went for Unreal Engine 5 slop as an engine. Your game looks like Highguard 2. And what did you try to achieve? Like console combat? So that already puts an insane limit on you. Because you can't create combat the way that you could on PC. And apparently it's not tap targeting anymore. So I'm not really sure how it's going to work. I'm not really sure how it's going to fly. I don't know. It just all feels very fishy to me. But I want to wait for a gameplay until we can go full lock-in mode on that. We just have to wait and see.
I don't think game genres move forward unless people are willing to do that. And so we are going to fearlessly charge forward.
Yeah,
and try
it doesn't
a bunch
even
of new
look
ideas,
like an MMO,
and we really
exactly.
hope people love them, and we're going to find out over the next couple of years.
And Guild Wars 3, as he pointed
Sure,
out,
you'll find out.
as he pointed out, came with an interesting philosophy, addressing player problems. I had my stream talk about what their current player problems are. Instead of having some core idea, they look at where the genre is, what are people having friction with and they're not happy with during the stagnant period, and then seeing if
they're just going to ignore the main issues. They're going to ignore the DI writing. They're going to ignore the millennial slop. Of course, they're not even going to pay attention to that.
they can do something about it. And they're not the only ones. Let's go into this. So Colin went on to describe a couple of things. Obviously, it's very early days for Guild Wars 3, and we haven't got any details yet, but he talks about a couple of things that they're focusing on. One is the joy of movement. I'm sure we're going to hear that phrase a hell of a lot going forward in regards to Guild Wars 3. The joy of movement. This is unsurprising. Whether or not you know it or not, Guild Wars 2 is actually one of the biggest innovators in the market. Their mount system is second to none.
It's
Absolutely
insanely
phenomenal.
good.
It's easily the best mount system in MMOs that has ever been created. It's so good, in fact, it has been lifted wholesale from other games. Looking at you, World of Warcraft.
Surely.
Yanking your
Blizzard will never steal anything from other
and
MMO.
of course, dragon riding, kind of plucked straight out of Guild Wars and stuck into their game, along with a number of other systems of Guild Wars.
Watching this guy like race, it just makes me feel so bad because I suck balls at it.
Innovates. Guild Wars' problem is,
but it's so much fun. I need to learn how to actually do it better.
Subjective buffet type situation, or actually ice cream sprinkles. But actually just their lack of marketing. Guild Wars 2 has expansions come and go, and nobody knows about it, even me.
Of course.
You find out about it.
I wonder why. Like, what is that? Of course, they had insane expansions with like the most craziest meta events ever that are so cool. And I'm literally just talking about the first expansion, like Heart of Thorns. Nobody speaks of it. You try to find a video about it, you'll find nothing because no one is actually bothered to make content for this game. It just goes to show how insane ArenaNet content creator filtering is. If you don't constantly glaze them 24/7, you will be marked and you will be turned into pariah. That's how they do their stuff. You crack one joke at their expense, they permanently ban you. That's how it works.
Till it's out. It's a tragedy. But they are innovators. They do try. They do take risks, which is why I'm excited about what they're coming up with, as well as what FF14 is doing to also address the same problem. So the joy of movement, they're going to do something with momentum. So if you jump off a cliff, you're going to gain speed, and who knows what this is going to turn into. Instant mounts with no cast bar, just being able to land and fly
we
like
already
Avatar,
have that.
or use
It's
it in
not
some sort of
innovative.
combat motion to make more damage in some sort of type of way. Very curious to see what this how this translates into gaming. But the big one, and I think this makes sense from what we're talking about with this aging player base and everything else, is the combat. Because this is also what FF14 believes is the way to move forward, the way to get that new blood in, and the way to...
FF14 will never get new blood simply for the simplest reason: they refuse to upgrade their engine. You can play FF14 on your phone. This is unacceptable in 2026. It will become even more ridiculous as we progress with time, and they just vehemently refuse to change it. They've upgraded the engine. It literally changed nothing. It looks the same. I know, I've played it. And the game still moves like ass. It's like they're not gonna get any new people being able to run a game on PS3. Like, it's not going to happen. And that's reality. And by the way, I may sound like a hater, FF14 is my second favorite MMO. It's insanely good. I played all the story. I've done everything until Endwalker. I'm not going to play Dawntrail because, well, you know, it's Dawntrail. And I enjoyed it. It's insanely good game. I've done the raiding. I've done stuff. Not every raid. Obviously, I did like 1 or 2, but they were so good. They were so good. And, like, I truly enjoyed it. And, yeah, the game is going to fail. Simply because of engine problem. That's it. They refuse to actually upgrade it.
To innovate. MMO combat has been...
Yeah, FF14 is a PS3 game. They can't radically change that. They should. They should.
Crazy stagnant for a really long time in nearly all games.
Otherwise,
Typically,
you're gonna die.
Tab target or select some enemy, and then you have a whole array of spells on a bar, and the best you could do is figure out the right order to press them in. Thumbs up. We're all very comfortable with that. If you pick up a new MMO, you kind of got to pick that up, you know? It's not going to be too complicated. ESO tried something interesting with their parry system and active shield blocking. You know, some games have tried to move this forward, but generally speaking, it has remained relatively the same. So Guild Wars 3. Let's talk about the advantage they have there. Unlike WoW and FF14, and I will refer to these as the big three. That's what I believe they are.
Yeah.
Those two have
definitely.
one problem. They don't release new versions of the game.
Yes.
WoW is releasing many versions of the game, but generally
it's all old
products. FF14 has one singular.
WoW is devolving. It's going backwards. That's the only way to save the game, because the story is so trash and everything is in retail is garbage. All they can do is literally go back to Monkey
Product that they release.
That's
Guild
all
Wars
they can do.
Hasn't done that, and that's been advantageous. They have Guild Wars 1, and then they have Guild Wars 2.
I really need to play Guild Wars 1.
And now they're going to make Guild Wars 3, and all three of them are very different. While they might be set in a similar thematic and lore-based world, the way they play is very different, and that gives them an advantage. Obviously, borrowing again, they saw what WoW did with all the classic launches and have done the same thing, launching Guild Wars 1 Reforged, and also doing a very smart move of having a sit-down with the Guild Wars 1 leads and the Guild Wars 2 leads to promise these games will all run concurrently. Now, the smarter thing they did here was, unlike Grinding Gear with Path of Exile, where they promised there'd be no disruption to PoE 1, while the PoE 2 is in development, which turned out to be massively untrue and led to lots of fan backlash for a year-long drought of content for a game that was usually an absolute bombardment of content.
But to be fair, they always make up for it with banger content. Like, the GGG is truly, I think, one of the only developer company that like is truly like the old ways. They truly elevate, they truly do something new every time. Sometimes it doesn't work, but they try. And that's why we love them.
They've sat down and said, we're keeping both
they're
these games
truly
running
insanely talented people.
At the same time, we're
They're
not
one of the
going to
good
be
ones.
doing any new big content launch for Guild Wars 2, but we are going back and revamping and modernizing the whole game, even addressing some infamous fights, which are memes amongst the community, which I massively disagree with, because I think it's a rite of passage to experience those things, because they're so horrific. I never legitimately
the Zaiten fight.
I would see a boss fight done worse than
We
Duke Nukem
all love it.
Forever.
We all love the
this is
Zaitan fight.
Giving me that.
Finally, they're changing
That is
it.
the thing that has come to my brain.
Yeah. But again, it's like, it's so late. This should have happened like 10 years ago, to be honest with y'all. It should have happened like way, way earlier. Now nobody really cares about Guild Wars 2. People kind of hear about it and they're like, I don't really care. And unfortunately, the base game has filtered so many people, they would never come back to try it again. Even though it's free. Like, they would never. And that's so unfortunate. I really hope then that the day they rework all of that stuff in the base game, they do some sort of a big announcement and they try to pull people in, because I truly think that Guild Wars 2 is one of the greatest MMOs out there. It just, you need to get the DEI stuff out of there. You just need to get that out of there. You need to get these weirdos out. They're trying to push a certain agenda down your throat. And just focus on the game. Make it like really good. Make it focused on the dragons like you already had in the earliest expansions. And I think you'll cook. You'll cook hard.
I'm in shock.
They also need to shave the base story off, because some quests are just irrelevant. So they need to shave off some of the base story stuff. I do agree with that. Yeah, he doesn't care.
What's that noise?
Yeah. Wait, I'll move myself so you can see him. Look at it.
But they're going to be spending their time bringing that up to spec,
He just,
so
like,
they can
he
keep
doesn't care.
supporting it going forwards, while Guild Wars 3 is coming out at the same time. Coming back to it then. Guild Wars 3 can work entirely different to Guild Wars 2, because Guild Wars 2 is still going to be there if you prefer that. Similarly, if you don't like either of those, Guild Wars 1 is still there, and also gives them that World of Warcraft advantage, which we've seen massive amounts of recently, is they don't need to create content for one product and then have this lull
By the way, the guy behind him is waiting for Classic Plus.
while they make the next one. This is FF14's current situation, but perhaps they're okay with it given their style of just wait till we release more content. We're okay with it. These games would obviously prefer you to be online all the time. I look at it this way. Certainly for a non-subscription based game like Guild Wars, they work off microtransactions and you sometimes purchasing a different content like Living World. If you're not logged in and playing, you're not going to buy the microtransaction for it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, WoW wants both, as we've seen with the souring they've done.
WoW wants everything. Even for housing, they charge you money. Do you really want me to engage in the conversation of the $75 treehouse? We're not gonna go over this again. It's like, Blizzard is so greedy. I cannot even comprehend. It's like, you know what's funny? Whenever I watch a video about Blizzard, people still uses Bobby Kotick's face. Bobby Kotick has been out of the company for 3 years at that point, and he's still the face of corporate greed and evil. It's just funny. It's just funny. Whenever someone make any Blizzard greedy video, they always put Bobby Kotick at the front. I did it a couple of days ago. It makes sense. It connects.
Housing, with the giant amount of cost applied to some of those things, because they want you not only online in one form or another, regardless of what version of the game you're playing, but also buying microtransactions at the same time. Classic Blizzard move. But Final Fantasy XIV working differently. Guild Wars 1 is going to stick to this model and allow them to take some risks. So we talked about the joy of movement. The big one is changing combat. I alluded to this earlier, but not only is Guild Wars 3 going with this route, but Final Fantasy XIV is doing the same thing. They both know of the issues, as does Blizzard, but this is where they think they can get an inroads. Combat in video games has advanced a lot over the last 10 years. It's actually very easy to look at something like the original Castlevanias, for example, and then look at the latest and greatest, which was announced this weekend, of what Castlevania looks like now. They're similar, but God, they work differently. They work so differently. Combat in video games has come a long, long way, certainly over the last 20 years that some of these games have existed.
100%, but it doesn't mean that it should be more complicated. Like, you can make a fun, intricate combat system. That doesn't bloat you with 700 keys to push. Like, you can definitely pull that off. You just need to think through and make it right, and that's what companies are afraid of doing. They don't want to innovate. They were like, oh, okay, I have a really cool ability idea. Okay, let's put it in. I have another one. Okay, let's put it in. And maybe a buffer too. Okay, put that in. And immediately you end up with like 700 keys. And that's a really big issue. I think every class should be kind of like classic World of Warcraft. It should be unique. I think classes should have disadvantages, strengths, and weaknesses. I don't think that Warrior for example, should be able to, like, I don't know, maybe give you a certain stat, like protection, or maybe some. No, maybe protection warrior obviously can give you protection. Maybe a certain stat that doesn't make sense. Maybe like movement speed or all that stuff, right? Even though you had shout warrior and stuff, like, you know what I'm trying to say, right? I think we should limit buffs to certain characters, and basically just make it simple. So you don't have as many buffs you need to click. You don't have as many boons you need to preserve. You don't need to all stack in one place. Just make the game more dynamic and less button pushy. Your difficulty should never come from players trying to maximize all of their rotations. Your difficulty should come from very fun raid mechanic. That's where the difficulty should come from. Whenever I'm too busy, like, oh, I need to click this. Okay, this off cooldown. I need to just shield wall. Okay, shield walling. It's annoying. It's not fun. I want it to be more like Souls-like, where you get to focus on the boss and literally be zoned in and fully locked on your target. I think that's way more fun, at least in my opinion. I know some people love maximizing their rotation, especially in PvP. I think long-term, overall majority want the game difficulty to come from the fight itself.
And now it's time to bring that in. One of the big things I talked about is buttons. This makes sense. If you look at what younger people are playing, I have 2 kids now who are avid gamers, they're not playing things that have 12 buttons to press. They're not doing it because they don't need to. What they're certainly not doing is sitting down and reading paragraph-long tooltips that all interact with something. I would point to WoW's talent system as being the most egregious example of this. Something you take on row 2 has some dramatic effect on row 12, and it's buried in a bunch of synergies and mini buffs and how this changes this and this changes this, which leads to people just copy and pasting a bunch of talents because they're not going to read all that. And youngsters certainly aren't.
Is that the
going to read all
Fortnite?
that,
Oh, she has a
mass,
Labubu
which is what the
backpack.
guys want. Instead,
How
they're
millennial.
picking up things like MOBAs, ARPGs,
I need this.
simple FPS games, because they don't have to learn.
Look, I
much.
can be a
It's the old
duck
red
with
versus
rocket
blue
boosters.
argument. You take
John
a
Wick!
complicated sport to follow, like say cricket, and compare it to overwhelmingly popular football.
By the way, Blizzard thinks World of Warcraft should be this, in case you were wondering.
Even though they both have a lot of depth and intricacy.
How long
to them,
until they
it
add
doesn't
a
take
Nicki Minaj
genius
skin?
to figure out that the guys on the left want to kick
Give it
the
some
ball
time.
into the net on the right, and vice versa. You can pick it up and understand what's going on without anybody explaining anything to you whatsoever. And you can do that in a lot of these games. League of Legends' popularity has been maintained for so long because even a beginner can pick up a few buttons and off they go to the races. You've got like 6 buttons. You're fine. You're good to go.
Yeah.
MMOs don't have that advantage, and it looks like both of them really want to simplify that. How are they doing it then? And what do you think about this is where we're at. So Guild Wars 3 hasn't given details on it yet, but they're looking to action RPGs and ARPGs for their combat in Guild Wars 3. They're looking for a slicker, more intuitive. The screenshot they shared, we could overly read into this, doesn't appear to show any form of tank
it doesn't
healing.
show
I know
anything.
somebody here is going to go, actually, Guild Wars doesn't use tanks. You're a liar. Okay? While they may not have, quote-unquote, the tank class, like, you know, a warrior, a prot warrior in World of Warcraft or a Dark Knight over in Final Fantasy XIV, you know that, I think the best description of it is yesent. Yes, there's tanking. Somebody will be a tanker in some form, and healers will be doing those kinds of things. Let's not pretend that doesn't happen. But it didn't show that at all in their screenshot, which I found interesting, if they're going to move away from the Holy Trinity. What it did show is archers and people attacking from behind. And we talked about this joy of movement with momentum, being able to use verticality, perhaps. Are they looking for a more Metal Gear Rising
Damn,
type
this game
approach,
was
a
so
Bayonetta
good.
approach in open
I
world
wished I
combat?
played that
Are they
on
looking
stream.
for more FF16, perhaps?
But that can't work on an MMO scale. I don't think you can make Metal Gear Revengeance style of mechanics on like an MMO level. I literally don't think we're there yet, Chief. I don't know how good their servers are. They wouldn't be able to handle this load. Unless someone actually told me this. They want to kind of make it like Destiny, where it's all instanced and you have like very limited rating content in terms of like players. If they want to go this route, I don't know if people would like that. Personally, I would try the game. I don't mind. But I'm not sure people would like that. Maybe that's the innovation. It can be. Like, I'm not immediately scraping that off the table. I just, it's very interesting.
That kind of combat, which is very, very popular there, very flashy, very beautiful, but also not locking you into these minor spells. Now, I will point out here in my MMOs, I love having some extra spells that don't get used all the time, but are nice and thematic and interesting. I like that stuff. But when it comes to the core rotational gameplay,
Damn.
probably not needed
It was
to
such
have
a good
7,
game.
8, 9, or 10 buttons that are part of your rotation, and games are moving away from that.
Bro, I need to replay it.
Recently wasn't a overwhelming. Some will disagree, but it wasn't overwhelming. Still plenty of buttons on the bar.
I can already hear the music in my head.
A new approach, and then we recently
It
saw
is so good.
14 do the same thing. Their announcement at Evercold at FanFest NA revealed they're going to rework every job in the game and introduce evolved mode, which essentially is the same thing. They're going to be dropping a lot of what they consider excess spells down to just a few. Now, obviously, Guild Wars 3 and Final Fantasy 14 are console as well as being on PC, meaning controllers are important, which also makes sense to try and get that younger audience in who probably grew up with a controller and not a mouse and keyboard. Now,
I know many people are against this, against like the controller gameplay. I honestly think this is like okay. In my I don't care. Like personally, I don't care. You can make combat good and on controller. Like I've seen people on controller play Overwatch better than people on PC. Like, it doesn't matter. You can make insanely difficult games on controller. I think people just automatically assume that if you play on a controller, you're just a boglemite that can't solve any problem whatsoever. I think that's a huge issue. No, you can do some crazy stuff on controller. I've seen it myself. Maybe that's why I didn't immediately jump on the bandwagon of Guild Wars 2 combat hate. Because, oh, it's for consoles? No, it's going to be trash for PC. Like, no, that's not necessarily true.
Evolve mode is doing the same thing. We think. Reducing the amount of buttons, making them much more flashy and impactful, more interesting, even to the point that they're going to be selling and rewarding.
Yeah, I didn't get the hate
cosmetic
either.
Modifications to those spells, because when you hit that button, you want it to feel juicy and meaningful and not be bothered too much about whether you did your 1, 2, 3 in the correct order. It should be simplified and more interesting in order to have more fun. One of the comparisons I like to make here is shotguns in video games. There's a billion shotguns in video games, yet some games just do it better than others. You can take something as simple as a shotgun, and with the right sound effect, the right kickback, the right response from enemies, you can have a completely different experience every single time. And then sometimes it's even a pro of the game, like you should fire that shotgun. It's really good. And they're looking to do that here with just taking simple spells, making them impactful, more interesting, and seeing whether it flows. Now, it might not, and that's the risk. But in this world of borrowing from each other, if Guild Wars 3 and Final Fantasy 14 come out with a system that people overwhelmingly love, certainly after months, we obviously have that honeymoon period with any new feature where people like it, but months in, like, this is just way better, then you will see the others borrowing from it and moving forward. Is this the innovation I'm hoping for, though? And I would say probably not. Because risk, as we talked about earlier on, is really scary. And too much risk, too much change of the norm, especially in an established game, is very risky.
Yes.
What I hope to see, and Chris here in the office agrees with me as well, is some friction and some sort of Helldivers-based interaction with the world. My biggest problem with MMOs actually isn't the minutiae, the combat system, whether or not I can mount. That's all whatever stuff to me, to be honest with you. My biggest issue with MMOs that I've had for the last 10 years, and one of the reasons I've drifted away, is I feel no connection to the worlds I'm in at all. And that's something I really miss. I haven't felt that since original Wrath of the Lich King. When I
Nobody
felt like
has.
we represented
Nobody.
our realm.
Wait, you didn't fill it with the pandas? Kind of weird. Okay, sure.
It mattered when you went into a BG.
I'll not
you
hold it
saw
against
one of the
it,
other
though.
servers, notoriously, realms like Alakia would appear. You knew you were in for a rough time. Like, it meant something. If I saw people from the realm, they were a name. In World of Warcraft, very rarely do people refer to each other a name. You're rogue, warrior, paladin, whatever.
You're an idiot.
In FF14, thankfully, you still get referred to as your name, but probably because the job names are too long to type. But that sense of community and feeling is gone. It's one of the things people
You're an idiot, and your only thing to do is polymorph.
really love about the classic versions of the game is that sense of community and connection to your world is somewhat returned. But in nearly all the games I play right now, I don't feel that sense of connection. And I really feel like Helldivers did show, if you've not played it, is they run these events where one of the devs is a character. And that character is affecting the world in some way. And the players have to come together to fight, win or lose against these challenges that have been put down. gives people a focus, a common enemy, and nothing brings people together like a common enemy. And especially in MMOs and fantasy worlds, if you have a pantheon of these people, which was Chris's suggestion, I loved it, of the devs, some are beneficial.
He's right. He's actually right about the common enemy thing. The problem is that Blizzard are currently the common enemy, and that's why everyone's clowning on them on YouTube. And we are united in that, and I guess that's kind of nice, but they need to make it in-game. They need to make Xalatath Blizzard. Oh, that would... Dude, I would literally renew my subscription and raid every single day.
Some are good, some bring hope.
Like, I don't care. I'll raid every single
Others
week,
don't.
sorry.
They are Khorne, they are Nurgle, they are Slanesh, and they come for you.
This was such a great cinematic.
And can you fight back? Can you join as a community? Some people will worship them, some people will fight against them, some people will try to summon the good dev to help them out as their worlds are ravaged. I would love to see an MMO that gives that connection. I don't know. I want to feel a connection. That's my next big innovation for MMOs. I want to feel a new MMO, because I don't want to play Classic again. Because I'm sure some of you are going, just play Classic. I did it. I did it to death. I want something new. And I think that's fair. I don't want vanilla ice cream anymore. I don't.
Base.
Half and half will do.
Yeah, insanely good video by Preach. I haven't watched a video of his in a long time. I'm glad I watched this one. Thank you for the guy who recommended it to me. It was absolutely amazing. I'm going to leave a link to the description. You guys should and, you know, watch it for yourself. Obviously, I'm going to link you guys on stream right now. There we go. You should give him a like. Such a great guy. Such a great guy. Truly incredible. I did really enjoy the video. It was absolutely based. And it was true about every single thing except what he said at the start. I did not like what he said about the aging player base and it's all doom and gloom. No young men would ever play World of Warcraft again. I don't think that's true. Maybe it's just me thinking that, but I truly believe that if you go back to the roots of targeting young adults like Blizzard did back in the day, you would have the same success you had back in the day. And no, I think you managed to even garner a larger community than what you did previously, because World of Warcraft was unknown then. It came from Warcraft, which is extremely popular, so maybe that's not so true, but it's like well known now. And if you go back to your roots and do dark fantasy, you'll garner an audience of millions upon millions of players that want to play your game.